What is going on, everybody? It is Mark Cargill, lead faculty and CEO here at Modern Pain Care, where we make you the complete clinician. Coming at you this week with another episode of the Modern Pain Podcast, again with our partner, Jarod Hall. And this week, we wanted to talk. We've been fortunate enough to do some mentoring and coaching of new grads, and we were, strangely enough, new grads ourselves. So thought we'd come on an episode this week and talk about some of the keys to success as a new grad, because there's some recurring themes we see, and definitely things that we reflect back on our career that, gosh, if we would have maybe thought about these things a little earlier on, we probably would have charted a better path moving forward. But before we get into that too deep, let's see how Jarod Hall is in his soon-to-be international travels.
Man, I'm doing good this morning. As you mentioned, I am flying out to Germany tomorrow. So I've been in rapid overwork mode, trying to get everything set up for the time that I'm leaving. The hospital system that I'm affiliated with, like we're in Joint Commission survey time right now, and it's delayed. It was supposed to already happen. It could happen when I'm gone, so I'm getting everybody prepped for that. And there's a lot going on right now. I've got a lot of loose ends to tie up before I jump on that plane tomorrow.
Oh, I remember having navigated a few hospital JCO visits. That was always like every.
They're not JCO anymore, Mark. They are TJC. They are the Joint Commission. They don't like to be called JCO anymore.
I struggle when anybody puts "the" in front of anything. My wife will the Ohio State. We won't go into that, but anyway, we'll just move on past that topic. Thank you all, my Ohio viewers, by the way, or listeners. Yeah. I honestly, it's like you walk around on eggshells for about weeks, sometimes months, just anticipating the visit, and then it's just like a massive. And then it's like your hydroculator log's a little bit off, and it's like, oh God, really? That's what we're gonna get dinged on? But yeah, it is. Some people do those things for a living and nitpick, and I get it. I think the general reasoning behind it is good, but maybe some of the execution could be a little bit better. But let's not get too deep into that. That could be a whole nother episode, and we'd probably lose viewers talking about it. But anyway, so let's talk about some three keys to success as a new grad. And the one that I think I reflect on continuously is the one we'll start with is humility, because I think coming out, I didn't really know what I didn't know, and it was one of those things where it was a struggle to kind of get humbled in the clinic, and had these aspirations that I was going to be much better than maybe I was initially. And it's not saying that I was bad, but I think, feeling that you arrived earlier than you arrived. And do you truly ever arrive? Now is my thought. You ever think that you've arrived? But what's been your experience with humility in your practice, Jarod, as far as like any transformations you've seen in your practice and maybe in some of the folks that we've been able to coach and mentor?
Man, I think I see it go about 50-50 from students, new grads coming out into clinic. About 50% of them are so scared and they feel like they don't know anything. And the other 50% is the category I fell into, where I was like, I went to school, I got this degree, I made A's on all my tests, I blah, 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 blah. I know what I'm doing. I'm going to be able to fix everybody. My hands and my exercise selection, they can fix everything. So I see it going, a kind of a split. And as usual, the good place to be is probably somewhere in the middle, right? Having some confidence in the education that you had and having some confidence in your interaction with patients goes a really long way. And especially when you have a young face, right? I decided to grow a beard and lose my hair so I could get some respect from people. And if you don't have confidence, patients really pick up on that. People pick up on that, and they don't necessarily feel confident in the plan that you're providing to them or selling them on or whatever it may be. But the other group of people, which, like I said, I fell into, need a little bit of a dose of humility, because PT school, while it's phenomenal and while all of our educations are really good, they don't teach us to be experts. They teach us to be generalists, and we have a lot left to learn. I mean, I'm a decade into this, and Mark, I think you're like 6 decades or something into this, and And we're still learning stuff all the time, right? We're still messing up. We're still figuring out ways that we could have done things better. And when you start to recognize how much you don't know, it's pretty humbling. And keeping that front of mind on a regular basis, and my new dose of humility hasn't been so much didactic information over the last couple of years, or hard science. My dose of humility has been recognizing that I don't I don't understand what the people that I'm working with are truly going through. I don't know how they feel. I have to humble myself and get in a position where I believe them, and I have a little bit of humility for the journey and the experience that person that I'm working with is going through, because there's no way that I can truly understand it unless I was them.
Yeah, yeah, that's good points. I think sometimes you come out too with, and you see people maybe, and we talked about it, practicing different than yourself and different things, and you make assumptions, and you don't really have any perspective of walking in their shoes or knowing where they've been and what they've, gone through to bring them to where they're at. So yeah, I think having that humility, um, and it's definitely something you need with your patients too, humility to not ascribe expertise in their experience, their life that they've experienced, their pain experience that only they know, only they are the experts in it. So I think humility can go in multiple directions with that, whether it be clinically, and recognizing that pursuit of expertise that you are just scraping the surface of when you get out of school. I mean, I'm granted we might have different trainings where we had instructors that might have helped us boost our expertise, or our pursuit earlier on than others. But in the end, I think we're starting from a pretty similar, starting line. And I think that middle ground of not being so unconfident to the point you're portraying it to patients and patients are picking up on it, those non-specific effects that we always talk about in our coursework and things. Um, yeah, but also not being so confident to where you fall victim to a lot of thinking areas, which brings us to our second topic. Like you like that segue, I bet, didn't you? As far as this critical thinking, because that's one of the things I didn't get any. If I did, I don't remember it, but I honestly don't think we got. I don't remember talking about confirmation bias. I don't remember talking about Occam's razor, any of those type of critical thinking skills, cognitive biases, and things like that. Now, again, I think there was a period on social media where everybody was like cognitive biasing each other, and like there's a straw man, where it got to be a little bit much. But um, what are your thoughts on critical thinking, and where that sits as far as maybe entry level education? Is that something we should expect new grads to have on board? Or is it something that, hey, that's a developmental skill? And is it only falling inside of PT is another thing, which I think we can probably agree that it's much more of a skill that's a life skill, not a PT skill, but it definitely works well in a professional setting for sure.
No, I agree. If I think back through my undergrad and PT school education, I never had any direct training on critical thinking, on the recognition of uh, human human error, thought, errors in human thought. I never had any education on bias, implicit, explicit bias, and all of this sort of stuff that you kind of come to recognize. I never had any education on like post hoc reasoning or any of this sort of stuff, right? Um, and I would say that some people are probably more natural born, quote unquote, natural born or critical thinkers. Some people maybe through the way that their parents raised them, the way that their brain just functions as who they are. Some people are a little bit more skeptical. Some people are a little bit more critical in the way that they evaluate things, and some people are a little bit less. And to be honest, I feel like I was somebody that was on the lesser side of critical thinking. I had a tendency to like innately accept things that people I respected or people I perceived to have authority said, kind of without fail. Uh, and that was a big challenge for me. And going down the rabbit hole of learning more about critical thinking, I am very, very, very confident in saying that it's a skill, it's a muscle. You can flex it, you can work it, you can become more robust and skilled in your ability to critically think, both by exposing yourself to the way that people before us have made errors in their thought, learning about different biases that we have, learning about different fallacious ways that our brain automatically draws conclusions, about things. Taking a second, like just really taking a second. If you implement a rule, when you hear new information, step back away from it. Don't automatically take it in, good or bad. Don't automatically shove it away if it makes you feel uncomfortable. Don't automatically swallow it down and accept it if it makes you feel good. Take a second when you get exposed to any new information and say, okay, I need to put on my critical thinking hat and look at this from a couple of different perspectives, right? So slowing down, learning more, practicing those skills really does make you a lot better at doing so. And when you become conscious of it, right? When you become actively aware of becoming a little bit more reserved, a little bit more hesitant, a little bit more skeptical in a healthy way, not a aggressive, negative skeptic or a cynic all the time. Um, you really become a lot better at that. And the beautiful thing about those skills is they do not get relegated to just physical therapy or just chiropractic or whatever. They go into everything that you see on the news. They go into everything that your friends and family tell you. They go into everything that, a person in perceived authority tells you. They go into any domain in life. That way of thinking is applicable.
Yes, very, very much agree on that one. As far as it's a muscle, like you said, it's one you have to work and hone, and it's a continuous process. But it's having. If there's one book I think that's worth reading, is Thinking Fast and Slow by Kahneman Tversky. It's just a good book that kind of talks about a lot of our brains. Now there's some discussions on if we truly have some of these ways they've cordoned off and categorized thinking, but I think the general rules kind of apply as far as the way we're prone to thinking errors and prone to marketers use it regularly to kind of tip us to make decisions on purchasing stuff as far as the human nature that exists around some of these things. And we're very much prone to, if our brain had its way and being metabolically efficient and taking that more short path to action and safety, that it's going to make some errors along the way. So sometimes you got to step back and flex that muscle, which is a little bit more cognitive load and effort. But especially in this day and age where we have a lot of opinions thrown at us with a lot of emotion behind them, I think it's very important for us to step back, take a breath, and evaluate where information's coming from. Know these biases that exist in humans, especially when we want to group together and make things us versus them with a lot of topics and things where maybe, as you've hopefully gathered by this podcast, there's a lot of middle ground that you can have discussions on that might help you move forward in a lot of things, but hard to find that sometimes, for sure. Any other things you think on the critical thinking? What things have helped you along the way, critical thinking? Now, before I get to you, because I think find people that critically think. Jason Silver, and I know we mentioned that dude regularly on this podcast. He's probably one of the ones that has pushed me from indirect mentorship of like, hey, this, from reading and interacting with him in various forums and different things of pushing to critical think. But find some folks that are mindful of it and are aware of critical thinking and try to actively apply solid critical thinking skills in them, and have conversations, have opportunities to where you're getting in contact with those people so they can push you forward. But rolling in the same circles of people that are rolling with the same thought processes and stuff, which I've been guilty of, tends to keep you still and keeps your progress still. Doesn't mean that you need to divorce all your past friends and circles of discussions, but always open yourself up to new discussions and challenge your thinking. I think that's a great way to move forward. But anyway, Jarod, as I was asking you before, a squirrel jumped into my mind of thought. What are some things you think are helpful to help students? Like, what are some resources or some tips you'd have for folks to help to develop the critical thinking skills?
Man, I think I've got three things, and this is just from personal experience. So this is a bit anecdotal, things that really helped myself. Number one was, yes, engaging with people that you recognize have really good critical thinking skills, and those people are out there. You'll see them on social media, and they're usually willing to engage with you. But in particular, engage in discussion and debate, not argumentation, not emotional, heated, back and forth, but discussion and debate, right? When you can have a conversation with somebody that you disagree with and learn to keep your emotion in check, that's going to really help your critical thinking skills. Um, and then reading and reading some more. Those are the things that have helped me a ton. And if you guys want to reach out, I've got a laundry list of books kind of related to human thought and critical thinking and all of this sort of stuff. If you guys want to hear some more recommendations, just shoot me a message and I can send you guys a few recommendations. And then finally, and I don't recommend this for everybody. One of the things that I actively chose to do several years back on social media was to never ever ban a person, to never mute or silence a person that I engaged with or interacted with. And I don't think that this is a healthy decision for everybody, because I understand that there can be a lot of stress and anxiety and issues that result from conversations and information that you encounter on social media and that sort of stuff. Uh, but I felt like it was helpful for me to make sure that I was never actively silencing opposing opinions or opposing voices, or even people that frustrated the heck out of me, because I wanted to actively train myself to be able to engage with those people and hear information that gave me lots of cognitive dissonance, or that I had to evaluate and I had to think critically about. I had to ask why, or I had to maybe find out, they're saying this thing and I don't agree with it, but I need to figure out why I don't agree with it. So I don't think that that is a solution, or even a recommendation for a lot of people, but it's something that I felt like was really instrumental for me in developing my ability to think critically, not cut off information that I just don't like or I don't agree with, because those people are out there, and it's good to know what other thoughts are out there, even if you don't agree with them. It just helps you understand where the world is, rather than creating an echo chamber. um, and I think that you can't think critically unless you can control your emotions. And that was an exposure. That was me building my ability to control my emotions, because I'm somebody that used to be a hothead, and I needed that discipline in my life.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, I think you just look at the media these days. I mean, they thrive on evoking emotions and getting people, throwing stones at each other and all these different things. And um, can you step back from that emotion, catch your breath, and examine some of the claims being made, and not just jump into emotion? I agree. I don't always succeed on the emotions front, because I also have been known to have a temper. My wife probably can attest to that a little bit. Working on it, it's a day-to-day process, and getting better as we try to each day. But yeah, no, I think you raised some good points on that. So last thought, as far as the third key of the many these lists of threes and things we've been going through today. We thought, and seeking opportunities is one thing that I probably didn't do as much as I wish I would have early on in my career. No, I was active in like the APTA, and when I was in Michigan, the MPTA, and different things. But maybe some other opportunities, just to, like we said, find folks that are thinking and practicing the where you want to practice, and find ways to enter their world. Whether it's like, can I shadow you? Would you mind if we have a discussion over lunch? Would you mind grabbing coffee? I really, respect your practice, and really, admire what you're doing, and would love to learn from you. Are there any opportunities to, like I said, coffee, lunch, shadow, those type of things? And, you learn from those folks, and they often have behaviors that you can recognize and see that, how they're keeping their practice up to date, and how they're maintaining their expertise and continuing their pursuit of expertise. The one thing that I think I've always been, interested in with experts that, I've considered experts, is they're not content. They're not there with like, my flags planted. I have achieved clinical mastery, and therefore I move nowhere forward. They're still thirsty, actively seeking information, and seeking, ways to confirm or disconfirm what their current practice patterns. And obviously can go both ways with that. But when we think of seeking opportunities, Jared, because I know you've spoken with this too, with some of our coaching clinicians and some of our mentees. What's been your thoughts on the opportunities that are out there that if somebody's motivated and looking to really push their career forward early on, what would you say would be some good ways to go about that?
And out of the three things that we've talked about so far, I feel like this is the one that I did pretty well. And you don't even know necessarily what opportunities are out there until you just start asking people. And there's this perception that, oh man, I can't shoot Mark Cargilla a message. That dude runs Modern Pain Care, and he's got a practice that he's working in, and he's flying around the world teaching courses. He doesn't have time for me, but I can guarantee you, if you shoot Mark a message, he's going to get back to you probably within 24 hours, maybe faster than that, with a response. And be open to having a phone call, be open to shooting you some information, be open to directing you towards some resources. And that has been my experience with just about every person I've reached out to. um, there's a perception that maybe some people that are quote unquote experts, or in positions of authority, all of a sudden become not human beings anymore. And that's just not true. All of those people are still human beings, and they still like interacting with people. And if they're flying around the world teaching, they like to teach. And guess what? If you reach out to them, they probably want to help you. They probably will enjoy, helping somebody learn a little bit more or come along a little bit faster than they came along. And more than that, I think taking a little bit of a gamble, and sometimes go into a really good conference, not necessarily for the conference itself, but for the ability to socialize and interact with all of the people at the conference. And you get exposed to all sorts of opportunities. You hear about things that are coming down the pipeline. Maybe you get asked to help on a project, or maybe you come up with a project, you brainstorm a project with different people, and all of a sudden, all of these opportunities, a lot of the times, they manifest out of human social interaction with each other, and people that want to do things, and they want to work on things, and want to move stuff forward. There A lot of that comes from just the social interaction. And if you're willing to reach out and engage with people, and put yourself in those positions where you're present, and you're hungry, and you're eager, and you want to be involved, and uh, there's there's a lot of opportunities that will manifest themselves through that type of interaction. And I know that with COVID and everything, that has been really difficult over the last year and a half or so. But hopefully that will be coming to an end soon, and we can get back into that, those opportunities as well. But still, social media has connected people from around the world, and everybody is just one message away. So seeking opportunities, actively putting yourself out of your comfort zone, and maybe taking on a project that you feel like, or like maybe somebody wants you to help on a project, uh, and you feel like it's a little bit above your pay grade. Almost invariably, you'll rise to that occasion, and then your pay grade has come up because you've gotten involved with something that you didn't think that you could do. You've dug deep. You've improved your ability to work on this stuff. A lot of times, getting in on things like that motivates you to take the next step, to really go a little bit deeper. So getting yourself out of your comfort zone is huge, and that was something that was tough for me at first, but it was probably the most beneficial thing that I ever did.
Yeah, I think one thing too is just put yourself out there. Share your time. Share some value with people with no expectation of any return, and you do that over time. And if anybody reads or listens to Gary Vee, I mean, he's a good example of somebody who's really self-made human, who's just a giving human being that has got a lot given back to him as a result of a lot of what he's done. And there's a lot of people that are doing that, but I think the more you can just give with no expectation of return, it will come around. I think sometimes we want to just arrive, and we want to become this expert. It's a journey, and if you can be patient with it, and give your time, help somebody out, take on a project that may not be at top of your list of things you want to do, but you're gonna show that you show your stuff, show that you got skills, show that you can execute. that stuff will get noticed, and it will get you more opportunities, and those opportunities will get better and as you grow. And I think just doing it all with humility, and again, not expecting to get all this public acclaim and things, because that stuff can come with time. But if you go seeking it as the front end of what you want, it's often not going to be the best kind of motivations, and people see through that a lot of times too. They want to see just genuine, I want to help and share without expecting anything. And like I said, it's that's where a lot of folks that have joined us on our team have been helpful, just from reaching out, different things that, and have done a huge amount of stuff for us, and we're looking to help them grow and give them opportunities as a result. So anything you want to leave them with, Jarod? We're at about 25 minutes, so we're hitting our limit of podcasting for this episode.
Oh man, I think we could talk about this for a long time, and I would say that these aren't the only 3 keys to success to be as a new grad, but they are 3 really, really important keys. And a lot of these tie into gaining ability to critically think, gaining opportunities, and that sort of stuff. A lot of that ties into mentorship and having somebody that you trust, that you go to, somebody that's maybe a few years ahead of you in their path of learning. And if you can find a mentor to help you through this, that's probably the thing that ties these 3 keys to success all together, and is really going to fast track that and help you out a lot. And I think that's what we've seen with a lot of people in our coaching program and our mentor program. It's just the ability to kind of hit fast forward or speed through some of this stuff, just because you and I have had the ability to stumble for so long that we've been able to help other people maybe get through that a little bit faster than the arduous path we had to take.
Yeah, exactly. I think that's the big motivation behind the program. As we've been talking with clinicians and having these conversations, we recognize that, hey, we can try to do some things on weekend courses. We can try to do some with these cohorts where we just do group meetings, or we can do a different thing where it's one-on-one, personalized, individualized, and really diving deep into people's practices and helping them not navigate some of these issues that if we would have had some foresight and some of the knowledge we have now, would have probably prevented us from a lot of frustrations and missteps, and maybe taking longer to get to our goals than we would have liked. So yeah, if you ever have any interest in looking at, there's some great folks doing coaching, not just us, of course, but if we're a little bit biased because we think we do it well, and we've got some great folks that we've been fortunate enough to interact with. But if you have any interest in that, just reach out to Jarod and I via social media, Mark at Modern Pain Care, Jarod at modernpaincare.com, via email. Obviously, you can DM us via Instagram or Facebook or whatever medium we're hanging out on that day. And we'd love to have conversations. I like to just get to talk to clinicians, get to see where they're at, see what struggles are out there. Helps us understand what struggles are out there too, and what things we're going to talk about on the podcast, what courses we're going to develop, all that good stuff. So don't hesitate to reach out. Jarod and I are happy to have conversations with you. We've, been, very, privileged to have conversations with folks that took time for us when we were in early stages of our career. So we'd be a really selfish, D-bag if we didn't return the favor. So anyway, that'll wrap it up for this episode. Like I said, reach out to us as well if you have any ideas of things you want to hear us talk about. There might be a Modern Pain podcast community where you can get a little bit more behind the scenes with us. Jarod doesn't even know about this, but there's some free, interesting, and I don't need to do anything from a tech perspective software that allows folks to have a little bit more direct access and help us maybe help you guys out a little bit more if you're interested in going a little bit deeper. So I'll leave it at that, and just stay tuned for those announcements as they come, and we will talk to you all later.